Welcome to Straight Out of Savannah, Talking with Tammi, a podcast that showcases people you may not know who are choosing to use their gifts to inspire and move the planet.
Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. I am super excited to be here. My guest, Beth Hollman, is joining me, and she is amazing. I love this show because I get to speak to people all over the planet, and she's across the country from me, so it is amazing. So, Beth, tell the people who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Tammi. It's an honor and a privilege. So my name is Beth Hollman, and I live in Southern New England. I'm in Connecticut. And so first, I am a light worker. I'm a medium. I teach mediumship. I also have a public relations agency that is geared towards helping small spiritual-based businesses kind of get off the ground. I do branding, logos, websites, any kind of marketing copy or public relations, I guess any kind of job they need done. There's really no job too small. And what else do I do? Also do some healing. I do some trance. So I'm kind of just a jack of all trades in the light work, and anything that feels right, anything I feel aligned with, I do. So yeah.
That is so powerful. So let's get into it. So share with the people, how you came to that place, because I know you didn't just come out your mama's womb, being a medium and all that stuff. Well, you may have, but you probably didn't know that that's what you were. And so kind of tell us about that journey and how you got there.
Yeah, definitely not right out of the womb, but I did, like so many people, I had experiences when I was young, I was doing this when I was a kid. I definitely had connections with spirits at a very young age. I had imaginary friends, and and that kind of came and went, that phase. And as I got older, I still felt that connection, and I would feel energy around me. I wouldn't see spirits not until I was older, but I felt the energy around me, and I always felt a pull or a draw to spirit. And then there was even a time when I was 16, I had a natal chart done, and the astrologer, put throughout the chart that I was like destined to be to work in like psychic or mediumship or whatever. And I just didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted to party, I wanted to go to school, I wanted to live my life, and I just wasn't interested in what the spirit world was. I didn't know, I didn't want to go there yet. And so it wasn't until excuse me, I was 40, in my 40s, my early to mid 40s, and I lost my mom. I really kind of had three awakenings. Lost my mom, and when she passed away, she was 1,000 miles away from me. She was in Georgia, I was in Connecticut. And when she died, her spirit moved through my body to say goodbye. And I just had this rush of just try to imagine like every positive, loving, just beautiful emotion all bundled into one for just a few moments. And that's what it felt like. I knew she passed. And in fact, I had to call the police to go to her house and get her. So that was the first.
Oh, so it was a sudden thing.
It was. She had been sick for a long time. And but we knew we couldn't get a hold of her. But on this day, I just felt something was off when I couldn't get a hold of her. It felt different. Not like her phone wasn't charging.
Right.
So that was the first thing. I knew she had passed, and I knew she had said goodbye. So I called the police. The second thing was 6 years later, I found out that my birth father wasn't my birth father.
Oh, wow.
And I had an existential crisis. An identity crisis. And so much happened during that period. And I actually, when I found out that first day, I sat on the side of my bed and prayed, help me find this man. Because they told me that my birth father was from Texas. And I'm like, I don't have anybody in Texas. So as I was finishing up my prayer, he came into my head. Like I had like a short 2-second video of him, moving his hair over, and I saw what he was wearing. And then I went to my the lady who was helping me find my birth family, and she had some pictures, and I identified him. I'm like, that's the guy. And she's like,
oh,
well,
wow.
we have to rule everybody out first. But I didn't explain to her that I saw him clairvoyantly. I didn't really understand it, but I knew I saw that guy.
Yeah.
And come to find out in the end, that ended up being my father. That was him. So, but it wasn't until I had an awareness of having a father, that I didn't know that he showed himself to me. And the third thing, really briefly, was I had a serious illness, many years ago, and I knew I went to the doctor and nothing was wrong with me. They did all the tests. Oh, I'm
Yes.
totally fine, but I thought I was dying. And
Yes.
I knew this was time that I needed to step into my power. I needed to work for spirit. So I said, save me and I will work for you in my way, in my time. I will work for you. So that's when it kind of all kicked off. Yeah.
You did the bargaining thing.
I did. I didn't sell
If
my
you'll
soul.
save me, I'll do what you say. I'll
That
work
that
for
only
you.
happens when you had a hangover, right?
Yeah,
Just let me
typically.
live. I
Yeah.
promise I'll never drink again.
Yeah. And then
And
you do the same old thing again.
right. That took me 3 times until I stopped drinking. But yeah, no. And it did take me 3 times until I finally decided to step into my spirit work.
Yeah, that's something. So what kind of background did you come from? Like, did you come from like Catholicism or, anything?
Well, we were raised Southern Baptist,
Yeah.
but my family was a military family.
Yeah.
So I have cousins who were Jewish. I have a grandmother who was Buddhist. I have another grandmother. She and my grandfather were the organist and the choir director at a Catholic church. Um, I'm just trying to think who else. I have cousins who are Mormon, so I literally had a melting pot for a family. So we had all of that, but we also had that military upbringing where we were just around all kinds of people, all kinds of places and cultures. So I feel like I kind of had a pretty good mix, to understand people and energy and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, see, that's cool. Because what I notice is that so many of us in this spiritual world, we've come from all kinds of different backgrounds, and a lot of times, we come out of some of the cults, I call that organized religion that.
I
And so we
understand.
have to, get over ourselves and get over, so many limiting beliefs and stuff like that. So, did you have any of that going on when you started coming into this world, like limiting beliefs that were like pulling you back? And, like I can say that when I started coming here and I really wanted to learn the tarot, but I could not learn it. And I did not know why. I read oracle cards, I love them and I don't mind, but I could not. And when I was in the church, they called me a prophetess. So I knew I was gifted even way back when, but I could not get that. I just like that and astrology. It was like, and I was thinking to myself, I'm not stupid, but I cannot connect this thing.
Mhm.
And it took a while until I was able to actually, remove those limiting beliefs and actually realize I had them in order to, start being able to connect in different ways. And so, did you have any of that type of situation going on for you? Because I know I've talked to a lot of people, and most of them have something, that they had to get over in order to
It's a
open
tough
up.
one. You know what? I think I didn't have limiting beliefs so much myself, but I had people around me that did. And I
Yeah.
think that made me slower to kind of embrace, mediumship and whatnot.
Yes.
Um, and like my husband, God love him, he's Catholic, and so, especially with tarot, he's definitely doesn't want anything to do with tarot.
Oh, that's
Even
of the devil.
yes. And with the mediumship, he still hasn't fully accepted it. He gives me space and supports that, but it doesn't really he's not on board with the mediumship, and it's fine. He doesn't have to believe in it. But I had to for myself say, well, it might not be for you, but I've signed the deal, so I have to do this. And it's what I want to do. I want to help people, I want to teach. But I also came from, so back to your question before this, my mom and I had a psychic connection. That's why when she came to say goodbye to me, I knew it was her because I felt that energy throughout my life. And her mother and her mother. So my great grandmother is, they have that tie. And I always joke about, on the other side of my family, I'm related to Edgar Casey. So
Oh,
my
wow.
My third great grandmother was a Casey, and he is my fourth cousin, four times removed. So, like, go back four
Yeah,
generations
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
So you got
but
that in your lineage.
yeah, I do. And but in my
Awesome.
yeah, my mom's side, it's just like a female connection. And I think that's very common in families, especially
Yeah.
people who, do mediumship. You think back and you're like, yeah, my mom was, her mom was. So I had that connection. So I think that once I was okay with what other people thought about it, or not necessarily that, but just the fact that they supported me, then I
Yeah.
knew I could fully step into, the aligning myself with my true authentic self. Yeah.
Yes, I got you. Because I think my husband probably has that same kind of thing a little bit with the mediumship. He's okay with the other things, with the healing and all that, but he was a little bit until I think what happened is his father came through, and I've never met him. I've never seen a picture of him. Because they don't have any pictures, and I didn't know, and but he came through, and I woke up and I described him. And I said, "Did your dad look like?" And I said, because he had a kind of like Muhammad Ali kind of look. And I said, "Did your dad look like?" And I described him and blah blah blah. And he just looked at me and he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, he came through."
He's
You
here.
know, and we really didn't even we didn't talk about it anymore. We just a little bit, and I saw like the surprise on his face because there would have been no way I could describe him because I've never seen him.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh my God," and I was shocked.
You can't
And
stop him.
yeah, and I was like, okay, but to me that awareness, because I didn't even know. I mean, now when I was a child, I did have experiences where mine was really weird. Okay, so I would see people like, okay, say like if I saw you somewhere and I would look at you and all of a sudden I would have this picture and it would be you in the casket. And the
Oh,
weird thing is, it was whatever they had on, like whatever suit they had on, that was exactly what they had on when I would go see them in the box. Because I did a lot of funerals because I lived with my grandmother for a while, and she was past the span, and so I think she was the official funeral goer, and so we went to a lot of funerals. We had a big family. She had, I think it was like 15 of them, and she had 10 kids, so it was a lot of us, and
a lot of
so
people.
yeah, so we were always going to different funerals and they were always calling her Pastor Stan. And so I went, and so I would see that. And I didn't tell anybody for a while until I told her. She was the only person I told because I didn't think anybody else would understand. And I didn't understand because I was a little girl when these things
You're
were
like the
happening.
ghost whisperer.
I'm telling you, it was crazy. It's like, and some people, they would be sick. And so you knew they were dying, you know what I mean? Like they had cancer or whatever. But some people weren't. We didn't obviously know that they were sick. And all of a sudden I would have this flash and I would see that. And it would
Precognition.
scare the shit out my ass because, they would look exactly like one of my aunties, she had a white suit on. And that was what I saw her in the casket. And I promise you, when I went to the funeral, she had the exact same white suit on. So
Don't
what
be
I
white.
did, right? What I
There.
did was I asked God to take that away from me because I was so scared.
It's difficult. Mhm.
And I laugh because I think about the Sixth Sense. I see
Yes.
dead people. And then, I was raised Pentecostal, so all that stuff was of the devil. You was going to hell for all of those
Right.
things. And I was like, I'm not interested in hell. I'm good. But yeah, so I asked for that to just go away, and it did. And then I came full circle when I started really, opening up in this world. I started taking Reiki, and then I had a
Mhm.
mentor in Arizona that mentored me with like the Bach flower remedies. And, he talked to me about, energy and all kinds of stuff. And
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
amazing. And then I started having experiences again, but it wasn't like that. It was like,
Don't let me see people before they're dead.
right? I was like, I don't need that. But it would come through, and I actually had one in the church, which was really weird. And my pastor said something about it, and I was like, I can't tell him. But I seen this girl, and she actually was like on dialysis and stuff. And I was talking to her one day, and because I think I used to do like a GED, and she was getting a GED or something. And so I was talking to her one day, and all of a sudden I got that flash. And I was like, oh gosh, she's gonna die. She's gonna die.
Oh,
And so I told my ex-husband, I said, I seen this thing. He was like, baby, do you think you should talk to the pastor? I was like, no, 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 no. I'm not doing that. And a couple months later, she died and
that's
looked exactly like the same. But I haven't had any of those experiences, but I have had where they just show up, you know. But then the
mhm.
other part too is, and I want to ask you about this. What I do a lot of times is I say I'm open to receive,
Yes.
and then that opens the door for me. So, do
Mhm.
you have a process that you use in order to get into that space of mediumship?
Um, yeah, and I just want to go just kind of touch on what you said. I have some similar things that I just am not comfortable with. So you have to set those boundaries with spirit. Like, okay, I don't want to see this or that. Like, I know in mediumship, a lot of people don't want to bring through children who've passed. And
Yeah.
and at first I thought the same. I'm like, I have three kids, I don't really want to bring through kids who've died in tragic ways,
Mm.
or every child's passing is tragic. Um, but then I started, doing them, practicing them, and they came through in such loving, sweet ways that I realized it doesn't have to be tragic for me to give their family healing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not always like that. But so when I do my mediumship, I of course we know about the brainwave states, which explain the science. That's the science of mediumship and how we can all get into that alpha theta brainwave state. And
right.
so I pretty much um I do a little talk before I get started, and I have a little kind of, I call it my soft opening. It's not really a prayer. It's just a little thing on my index card that I read. And for me, it's just kind of like a little mechanism, like a switch that allows me to go from beta and talking to them into that alpha theta brainwave state. And it's just kind of, a soft transition. And then I just take, I'll take a drink, a sip of my water and a couple deep breaths, and I go when I start to look off to the side, that means I'm going into that alpha theta brainwave state. So that's my transition. But I'm the same. I set up boundaries. I always ask my clients if they're okay with anything that comes through. Some
Yeah.
people don't do that, but I just feel like that respects their boundaries, even if I know technically that the spirit world's only going to give them what they're okay with. Um,
Yes.
it kind of just creates, I think, a connection with the sitter. So I do that. But yeah, I think we all have our, I wouldn't say rituals, but I
Yeah,
don't
that's
really
it. They
need
are.
to, yeah, and I don't need to meditate or anything like that ahead of time. I do meditation and sitting in the power regularly, so I don't need to
Yeah.
do it ahead of a reading. But that's interesting though that you see. I didn't. I've only seen one apparition, but I don't know. Was yours like people were in front of you, or was it more like a vision, like clairvoyance?
Mm, so typically, sometimes it's clairvoyance, sometimes they're in front of me. A lot of times, my strongest clair is a clear audience. So a lot of times I hear,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll come through like that, and a lot of times they'll tell me stuff,
Oh.
and it's been really really exciting, really, because they'll tell me stuff, and then I'm like, okay, and when I did one of the courses that I've done, because I've been actually been doing it now for about a year. I've been doing courses. So I've done some courses with this year I did a lot of courses with Carrie Standfast. You know her?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
She's out of UK.
I'll have to look her up.
And let me tell you how I found her, which is really weird. And I already knew that it was spirit. That's why I took it, because I got an email from her. I had never seen her, did
Oh,
not know her, that was not on her email list. And I got an email that said she's doing this class for 6 weeks. And I think it was something like $80 or something like that. And I said, oh, I can do that. And
meant to
so
be.
I jumped in, and then, after a while, she's amazing. I love her. But she's, been doing that class, and we do like psychic stuff and we do medium stuff. And, she like brought somebody in and we did a sitter like that, and,
Mhm.
different things. And of course, same thing with the breakout rooms and all that other stupid stuff. But we just had a lot of fun, and she showed how, you can just have fun with it,
Yeah.
and how you can just relax, and all this. And so I started with that, and then I think I found your thing, and then I came to a couple of the circles, and I was like, okay, and then I did Carol Massey's
Pharmacy.
thing. Yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
was actually going to do the other one, but I think I just wasn't supposed to. I think I was tired, and because sometimes you need a break.
Yeah.
But I did, and I started, and things started happening. And so, like I said, I do readings in a metaphysical shop, but not mediumship,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Oh,
but they come through.
is it intuitive?
Yes, I do intuitive readings. I used to use the cards a lot, but Spirit told me stop using the cards, so I don't use them that often. A
So
lot
it's
of
intuitive,
times,
but you said spirits come through too, so you're kind of that's the way it should be, honestly.
yeah, they just come through. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm doing the reading, and all of a sudden, I'll hear something or I'll say something, they'll show me something, and then I'll tell the people, hey, you got so and so in spirit, because I think it feels like, it's a lady or whatever, whatever.
I'm
And
sitting beside you.
that was even before I had any training, and it was
Oh,
wild because when I did Carrie's training the first time, she said, I came in and you introduced yourself and all this stuff, and I didn't know anybody else in there, nobody, because I got an email. So I was like, this is definitely from spirit, and I didn't know anybody. And so I came in and she said, you have a natural affinity for this. And she's one that, how they go to what is that college?
oh,
Arthur
Arthur
Finley.
Finlay, yeah.
Yeah, they go and I love it. I'm like, they get the bachelor's in psychic arts. Damn. I was like, wow. But she was like, you got a natural affinity for this because, I just came in
Takes one to
and
know
then,
one, right?
yeah, because she was like, she does things like just kind of put you on the spot.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And I love it. At first, I was a little scared, but I
Yeah.
love it. And then she was like, listen, she was like, just tell the people what you get. She was like, don't say maybe, none of that shit. She
Don't
was
think
like, just
about it.
tell the people. She said, wait, if it comes, just give it to them.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been doing. And it's like, okay. And so that's kind of what has happened with the psychic readings that I'm doing in the damn shop. Sometimes there are people will just come through and I'm like, I feel like your grandma's here. You got a grandma in spirit. They're like, yeah. I was like, and does she blah, 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 blah. And I'll give them, the evidence and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's kind of
Doesn't
how it happened for me.
doesn't that feel great when you're like you're in that energy of the spirit world, and it feels good energetically. Even if bad stuff comes through, it's all love. The way they're explaining it is all love. So just that
Yeah.
energy feels so good. And but when it comes through and it's unexpected and it's accurate, it's like you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's
Girl,
like
I was like, and the girl was so funny because the girl I was reading with, she goes, I didn't know you were a medium. And I looked at her and I said, I didn't either.
did I? Surprise.
I was like, surprise. Because she was like, oh my God, and yeah. So it was so crazy because, some of them will come through and they're like, well, because I'll ask them the first thing. I'm like, why are you here? What is it that you're looking for? Da, 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 da. And they're like, oh, well, I just came through and I saw that they had a reader there. And so I came and blah, 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 blah. And I have these girls, they come almost every time I'm in the shop. Like almost every
That's
month that I'm in there, they come and they're friends. And so they want a reading together.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like one is sitting there and usually I confirm what the other one already told them that I didn't know.
Told you.
Yeah, she's like, that's what I said. And because I looked at one girl and said, you told her that, didn't you? She goes, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, but they just come through. And I'm like, and at one time I was like, can I control it? Not that you want to, but how do you feel about that?
Oh no, I definitely feel no. You can't. I mean, you can control it, but I think that when you start controlling it, the reading goes sideways.
Yeah,
I mean, you can cut it off. You can be like, I don't, I'm done reading for the day or whatever. But I think when you're open and you let everything come through, that and you trust that spirit's going to be there, you're just like a conduit. You're just a
like a
mouthpiece.
vessel,
Like a what?
a vessel.
Yes, exactly. You're
We're
just a
like
vessel.
how we have the babies, we're just a vessel.
Yeah, we're for the communication, and we're just the mouthpiece, and we just relay whatever information we're aware of, and it could be, it comes through all of our senses. That's the amazing part about it, is we can feel it, we can see it, we can hear it, clairaudiently. And no, I feel like I don't even believe we should ask them questions. I think we just let them tell their story. But you can, I mean, I've definitely done that with teachers. but I feel like when I start controlling it, or I start asking questions, that's when I get out of my alpha theta brainwave state and I go back into beta, because I'm thinking now, what do I want to ask them?
See,
But
and
when
I
we just
usually don't. I usually just ask, well, I let them come through. And
okay,
then sometimes I ask them like, well, what's your name? Or, something, especially for Carol's stuff in the group. How
the
you're looking at the
pictures.
picture. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll do that and yeah, and they'll yeah, and it's
Well,
okay for me that way.
you can. In fact, one of my teachers always said the way he read was when he becomes aware of the spirit communicator, he's like, what's your name and what's your story. So I like to, I don't always do this, but when I have a client, I'll ask them the name of the person that they want to hear from, just because for me, it just gets me in that energy by hearing their name.
Gotcha.
But I don't always need that. Sometimes when I see a booking, excuse me, I'll look at the person's name that booked the reading, and I automatically feel, oh, they're here for their brother, or they're here for their mom, or they're here for their daughter or something. So I just know right away. But then getting that name is kind of a validation. I'm like, oh, they were here for their mom, and the person they wanted to hear from is Gladys. And I'm like, oh, that's their mom. But I don't always do that. And sometimes I ask for the relationship, but generally, well, sometimes they'll tell me without me asking.
Hmm.
But I just try to let the evidence bear out the relationship. I think I've gotten off track, but yeah, I just think that
No, that's right.
the more we just open to spirit, I think the more accurate we become and the more information we get. I think just being open to whatever they give us, kind of just gives us that credibility because we trust so much. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That to me is like the major thing in all of this is trust.
Yeah.
And I laugh because because I pull cards for myself like every day, right? So for like 3 weeks, I kept pulling trust your intuition, trust
It's
trust your
trying to tell you something, isn't it?
right. I was like, okay, all right,
You
but
have to do. Just trust.
right. But what is your favorite teacher that you've had?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, Gosh, I've had a lot of really good teachers. Um,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to toot his horn because he really was probably the teacher that I grew. I've had wonderful teachers. I will say my first teacher was Marie Hess, and she's a fantastic teacher. I'm really good with people who are just starting out, kind of getting them out of their shell. But I moved pretty soon into classes with Charlie Kelly, and you can find him on YouTube. He's got a million videos.
Oh, I follow
He
him.
Yeah, he's the gold standard, I think, for evidential mediumship. He is a wonderful teacher. He's got
And he's so
uh,
down to earth
yeah, and he's got a really
and
good,
no fluff.
and he's got a very very close connection with his spirit guides, and they kind of guide him through the lessons that he has his students do. And he'll throw you into a breakout room. First he'll explain what's going on, they'll put you in a breakout room or four, and then bring you back and he'll answer all your questions, and then he'll put you in another breakout room so you can get that thing sorted. Whatever problem you had in the last exercise, you can do again with a different exercise. And then he stays after and answers questions for everybody. So he was definitely the teacher that I learned the most under. But now I'm studying with Andy Bing. He went to Arthur Finley, and he has so much philosophy, and he teaches completely differently. I've learned a lot from him, but his style is completely different. Um, and I just think that so many people will stick with one teacher for a long time, and I think that's really limiting.
Yes.
I just am from the school of thought that the more teachers you have, the more you can kind of take what you resonate with and just leave the rest. I think
Yes.
that
Yes. 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 Yes.
don't we all form our own beliefs and philosophies? And I
Yes.
think going to different teachers, you learn that. And that's kind of the stepping stone that got me into teaching was, going to these different teachers whom I love them all. But just, getting the best parts of what they've taught, that I connect with.
Yes.
And that's what I want to teach my students. It's like what I felt or what I learned or what I know, based on my own experience is what I want to, share with other people. So what about you, who have been
I
you
was
don't have
gonna
to
say
say
I was gonna say your class was amazing. I
oh,
really did enjoy it.
and it was just mine's just like a a foundational mediumship course. So it's like, anybody who's never done mediumship, I kind of just teach you, the basics. And
It was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed your class. I enjoyed Carol's class. I've taken a class from Carol. Carrie, like I said, she was the first. Well, she's the second class because I took a online class from what is her name? Suzanne Giesman.
yeah.
I took her online class through what is the name of that group? No, not Udemy. It's Spirit.
Oh, I know
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
Yeah, they have the shaman stuff and all the different things and shifting the shift or something like that.
Oh yeah, the Shift Network.
Yeah, yeah. She did a class through the Shift Network. So I took her class. That was the first one that I ever took, and I was like, I liked her, and I do watch her, and I like her. But then when I got the email from Carrie, I joined that class, and I've taken classes with her all year. As a matter of fact, I signed up to take one in January, a 6-week class with her. But I've enjoyed her, and I love her style, and I like her spirit, and and she's very encouraging, and she also pushes you.
That's important.
Yeah, and I knew I needed it, and so I love that. Like I said, and I loved Carol's class. I thought it was very interesting. Yours was good. I can't really say that I have a favorite, and then of course Charlie I watch on YouTube.
Yeah,
and Martin Twycross. I've been watching him
I
because
love Martin. Yes.
I love him because he's without the fluff, because I hate all that stuff. Because I used to watch another girl from New Zealand, Victoria something. I liked her, but she got a lot of fluff. Like it's the video be an hour and a half long and really about 30 minutes worth of teaching, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
That's Andy. Andy's prone to 2-hour lectures, and I have the attention span of a gnat. So I have to listen to him and then go back and listen again so I can write. I just can't do it all in one sitting. I have one more teacher I want to talk about. Is my trance teacher. I can't believe I forgot to talk about him. His name's Andrei Georgievich. But he's a wonderful trance teacher, and I've learned trance speaking, trance healing, and trance evidential.
Ooh.
And trance evidential is some kind of amazing because I
was going to say, what is that? Can you explain?
Yeah. So he explained it as being the future of mediumship, and I completely agree because we right now are the middleman. We're the medium, and we're a conduit. But when you do trance evidential, you become the discarnate spirit. So essentially, you step into their spirit body and talk, and in a trance state, which is a theta brainwave state. You talk from essentially their voice. And so I did this. I took a workshop with him, and I was imagine this, he had like 60 people in his class, and he did for 3 days he did student demonstrations, and I participated in 2 of them. Out of 60 people, I got 2 of them. And it was just meant to be. And I had such an amazing experience, but I brought through my friend's mother, and I had to reach out to him later and say, I need to give you this information because I felt like I wasn't able to give him that much feedback in class. But afterwards, I said, I felt like I was in her kitchen, and I could see her living room, and I could see her legs. And I just described everything to him, and he understood all of it. And I'm like, I definitely felt like I was in her body, seeing the world from her perspective. And
neat.
It's amazing. And so that's going to be the future of mediumship, really, is you're not going to be yourself as a connector of from spirit to sitter. You're going to actually be that discarnate spirit talking to their loved one, and you feel
I can see that actually.
Oh my gosh, Tammi, you feel
I watched the trance demonstration one time on YouTube. I can't remember who it was. It was one of those old ones because it was like an old video even. And I can't remember who it was, but it was so interesting. I mean, it was, and I did that like I wasn't even in this world.
Yeah.
It just popped up on YouTube one day, and I saw it, and I was like, wow, that is so neat. And my question was, is this real?
It's so emotional. And I have to tell you that at least 2 or 3 times, I came out of the trance because I have a bit of an awareness that I'm doing that, like that I'm in there. But you don't really feel like you have control over what's happening. You're just kind of basically a little bit aware. So when I came out of the trance, I was crying. I mean, that's how, here was a grown man talking to his deceased mother, and I was in her body, and he just, you're allowed to at one point say something to the spirit communicator, and I came out and I was crying. That was his mother's response. It wasn't me. But oh man, it's so just really moving and really mind blowing. It's such a different experience. So yeah, I will have to get you there because you have to experience it.
Yeah, because that's neat. I mean, that's already neat. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I have one question too. Now, okay, what do you feel about, because this is something I've noticed too. A lot of people that are in this spiritual world, whether they're psychic or whether they're medium or whether they're psychic medium, because we know that all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are medium.
Right.
And so, what do you feel about this? I've noticed that so many of us have so many health and things. So how do you see, how have you experienced this? I mean, with other people? Because I'm like, almost everyone that I talk to, we've been through some type of health crisis or some type of something, in this world. And I actually have been thinking about maybe doing this as a thesis because
Oh.
yeah, because I'm getting my master's in metaphysics. And I've been thinking about that because I've noticed it so much. And my mom actually said something about that. She goes, I just don't understand. She goes, this other girl, she does something, she said, and she had problems with this, that, and the third. And she's like, and you've been to the hospital, the doctor, more than I have this year. My mom. And I'm like, I know. And she's like, I'm trying to figure out why. And I thought about it and I was like, there seems to be a correlation out there. So what do you think about that?
That's an amazing question. I guess I've not really put thought into that, but the first thing that came to mind when you were talking about it is, just that it's all energy. So I think, when we light workers, constantly, give our energy away, through readings, through healings, um, I just think it's kind of like depleting us. Although it kind of fills us up too. I mean, because we get good energy from the spirit world, because every time we connect, that's healing. We're connected to universal consciousness, we're connected to the spirit world, and I think that's healing too. But maybe it's just that subtle, kind of like almost like after you go for a workout at the gym, you're
Yeah,
immediately exhausted. You feel better, but you're
yeah,
tired. It's
yes,
I think we kind of live in that state, and also because we are all empaths, I feel like
yes,
we take on other people's energy and sometimes it's negative. And like I don't know if we were talking about this before the show or before you started recording or after, but a lot of times we will take on people's illnesses. And
yes,
so we'll have things and it's like, this is not mine. I get that all the time. If I start a reading, I'm like, I've got a headache and I know this is not my headache.
yes,
And then I'll ask the person, or I won't ask, I'll say, you would understand that your mother had frequent headaches. And it turns out that's evidential. So and I get a lot of that. A lot of clairsentient feelings, like physical feelings
yes,
during readings. And in fact, I don't know what's going on energetically here. My basement's cold, but I'm like shivering. I don't feel didn't feel cold before, but now it's like there's some really good energy here and it's exciting. It's not draining. But yeah, I
yes.
just think it's a kind of an energetic thing. I don't know if I have a better answer than that, but I just feel like our energy is constantly in and out, and I feel up and down, and I just feel like we're just constantly shifting. And I think
Yeah.
that what I'm curious what you have, like, how you feel about that. Where do you think it comes
I
from?
do. I feel the same way because I know that, like we talked about before, as an empath, I realized at one time I picked up depression and I don't suffer from depression.
Mhm.
I never really have,
Mhm.
here and there. And, people tried to say, oh, well, you're depressed or whatever, but I didn't feel that. And so I noticed that I started going through Reiki and I realized that and I was like, it's not mine. And I did like a medical intuitive class with uh, Tina Zion, her medical intuition thing, and she said, "I matter of fact, I had a session with her, and she said, she said you are a medical intuitive." I said, "Yeah," I said, "but I think I'm afraid of it." And she said, yeah. She said, it feels like that. She said, but once you allow it, it's going to be okay. She said, but one thing about you, she said, you pick up people's shit. She said that to me, and I was like, and she was like, so you just have to tell it, it's not mine, get out.
Let go. Yeah, let go of
She
it.
was like, tell it to go. And so I think sometimes, most of us don't know this. We don't know that, we're absorbing other people's stuff,
Right.
because a lot of times we know we're absorbing their energy, but we don't know that we're absorbing their
Illness.
sicknesses and shit, and right. It's like, we don't know. And so I think that, it is a thing. But I think as we learn how to protect ourselves and, because what I have noticed is that a lot of us have autoimmune stuff.
Yes. I mean, literally, I can think of everybody I know.
Right, right. It's like at some level, it's like, oh my God, what is this? And so it's like, okay, is it that, we all absorb like that all the time? Or what is really going on? So, that is my, that's my lingering question.
Well, you know what's interesting on that same kind of theory is what about the people who aren't? I mean, I know we're all naturally empaths, but the people who don't recognize it, like, no offense, my husband, but like my husband, he would never think that he is a sensitive person or picks up other people's energy. But you wonder comparatively how people who are light workers and people who are not professed light workers, what is the incidence, I wonder, of illness versus healing, like, because I feel like a lot of times we talked about this before, heal
Mhm.
ourselves,
Yes, yes.
as healers. I mean, I went through something in July and I thought I was dying again,
I
and I
remember.
went
I think
through
that's
all.
how we really connected really hard because
Yeah,
you posted something and I was like, girl, what's going
what's
on?
wrong with her?
I was like, you need
What
to
is
see some
happening?
healing or what?
Do you need me to send a gift basket?
I'm
No,
telling
I
you because I see that and it's like, and then you said something about, you had to go to the hospital and this, I was like, oh my God, oh my God. Oh yeah, because we
I
were
was
doing
getting
a class.
the iron infusions I was getting, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
but I think that we recognize that, and it's almost like, to me, when I start feeling low or sick, I go into that mode where, okay, I need some space, I need some quiet, I need to meditate. It's like I need to heal myself now because no one's going to do it for me.
Yep.
um and I think you can only rely on, Western medicine, for so much of it. If we rely
Absolutely.
on, well, and we're spiritual beings, and I think that our bodies have an amazing healing power, and we just have to give them some time and space to do that.
Yeah.
So I just think it's about honoring our bodies, and I think a lot of people maybe who are not as in touch spiritually with their soul, maybe don't have that same realization that they can heal themselves. So I think I'd be
No.
surprised. I'd like
Well,
to see.
people don't, and this is the problem that I have with religion. It's like you go into church and you're sick, and I mean, I thought the church was supposed to be a hospital for the sick,
Healing the soul, or
healing souls and all this stuff. And even I tell people, because they're like, well, because I get a lot of hate stuff sometimes, and you're doing the devil's work and all this stupid stuff. And
yes,
I tell them, I say, but does not the Bible say, physician, heal thyself? I know that it says that because I've read it many, many times. And so
well,
I'm
there are
like,
lots of healers in the Bible.
lots of them. And I'm like, I think our bodies actually were designed to heal themselves. And, and honestly, I think we talked before, we got on, that's the place that I'm in. It's like, it's almost like I heard, you're energy healing. So heal yourself. You know what I mean? And so all these things that, I've been dealing with stuff, I'm good because I don't feel like it's anything really,
Yeah,
and I know that
me
the
too.
processes that I do, like every day before I go to bed and before I get out of the bed, I meditate and I, send energy through my body, and I do like a color healing,
Hmm.
because I love the color healing, and I do that and I send it through all my chakras, and and like I have this thing, and I lay hands on it because I know that my hands are healing hands.
Yes,
I know
same.
that. And so I'm like, without a doubt. And it's funny because I actually was talking to a friend just before we got on. I said, I said, I am supposed to help people and heal them with my hands. I know this.
Mhm.
And the wild thing is, the couple of different reviews I just got said that they were like, "Oh my God, your hands are healing hands," and and if you want to get a healing or whatever, you need to get one with her, and all these things. And I was like, "How?" And then I thought about it, and my husband said it one day. He said, "Baby," he said, "you got healing hands." And I said, "Yeah." And so I was talking to her, and I said, "I got to find a place where I can see people in person. Not too many, but see people in person." I said, "Because I'm supposed to use my hands, to heal." And I was like, it took me a long time to actually really um, get there because I was afraid. But I've been healing people with my hands since I was like 4 years old.
Me too.
Like I
Yes,
literally my grandmother used to call me up to the front of the church to lay hands on people and pray. And I was a little girl, so I didn't know, but I knew that that was in me. But of course, you grow up and you get away from a lot of that, and then you get scared and stuff like that because at one time I thought, well, I can't heal them. I'm not God.
didn't
You know what I
understand
mean? And I felt the pressure, so I kind of like backed away and went backpedaled a little bit, and I was like, oh, I can't do this.
your grandmother knew. She knew.
She did. Yeah, she was
She listened.
amazing. Yeah. So I said, okay, it's all good. So, was one other thing I wanted to ask you. So, what would your advice be to someone that, started realizing that they had this gift?
That's a great question. Honestly, I feel like we 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 step into it when we're ready, but I also believe in divine timing. So I believe that everything lines up for us to step into it when we're supposed to. Of course, I also believe in the birth plan, and I know it's controversial, not everybody believes in that, but I believe that everything's predestined, and when we come here, we have, that plan set up and we follow that. So it's already in our path. We just have to step into it when we're supposed to. So I think a big thing is trusting in your spirit team that they'll be there to support you. I
Yes.
think it's so important for people to get to know their spirit team through meditation, prayer, whatever works for them to make that connection. Um, but also having confidence that you have that power to not only understand or have a connection with your spirit team, but also to be able to help other people. We are all energy. We are part of the universe. The universe is inside of us. We
Yes.
are all God consciousness or universal consciousness.
Yes.
And if that energy is flowing through all of us and through everything around us, then all we have to do is turn on that ability to work with it. It's already there for us. We just need
Yes.
to be ready and be open and say yes, I will, and step into that. Yeah, step into that power. And I think it just comes at a different time in everybody's life. And I think
Yes.
it's helpful if people have always had some sort of a connection to spirit, like you've always had experiences, and then
Yeah.
all the church and healing and everything, that helps you once you are at the place where you're finally ready to step into it and work. You've
Yes.
already had so much life experience to draw on,
Yeah.
and some people don't have that, so they're kind of starting from scratch and learning at age 40 or 50, kind of the ins and outs and the terminology and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
think if you've always had an open mind, then you're really ahead of the game. But definitely trust is the most important factor, I think. What about
Yeah.
you? What is your best advice?
I actually feel the same. I feel like once you begin to open up, because I always feel like for me, I feel like Reiki is, how they say that marijuana is the gateway to other drugs, which I don't agree with, but that's what they say.
Yeah,
But I feel like that about Reiki. Like Reiki is the introduction to energy.
that's a
You
beautiful
know what I
analogy.
mean? Like that really started opening me up to all the other things, because now I've done, God, so many healing things.
Yeah.
I'm a theta healer and a sacred soul alignment and some other thing. I've got so many of those little classes that under my belt, but it was like that opened me up. Now I don't often tell people that I do Reiki because I can't remember all those damn symbols and stuff. But I use the energy.
It's a lot of information. I don't do Reiki. I'm, you know, I give you all the
It's
credit. I don't.
energy. That's why I said it's energy. That's why people are like, I'm an energy healer, because I use a lot of different techniques and stuff. But you know what? I just feel like that opened up, and that, because that put me on the trajectory of meditating consistently,
Yes. Well, see,
learning how
that
to.
was the starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, people always tell me, because I like to do classes on meditations too, because people say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. I've got
Yes.
ADHD. I got it." I say, "Yeah, I got probably all this stuff too." But here's the thing: I'm not a person that can sit and do 2-hour meditation. That is not me. I can do a 15-minute, a 20-minute, a 30-minute, possibly an hour,
Yeah.
but I don't even go like that. And plus, I can meditate washing dishes.
Hours.
I can
Yeah.
meditate ironing. I can meditate
Driving.
outside walking. Shit, I try not to do that, but and I like to meditate on the beach. Different things and stuff. I tell people, I said, don't limit yourself, and don't put yourself in a box where you just have to sit there cross-legged and put your feet on the floor. And because I told somebody one day, I said, what pisses me off about people that do that? I said, because what about the people that are paralyzed and can't get up, so they can't meditate because they can't put their feet on the floor? I mean, you know what I mean?
Great example. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, no, why do we have all of these rules and semantics when really you're just connecting with the spirit team?
It's
And
available
so
to
that,
everybody.
yeah, so that's kind of, how I feel about that. It's like, when you open the door, then it walks in,
Yes. I love that.
so yeah. So I have one more question before
Sure.
we land this plane. So this is a question I ask everybody, but what is one thing that you would like to change in the world?
Oh, this is an easy one.
Wow, everybody usually says, "Oh, that's a hard one." I'm like, okay.
Well, I just, from my experience, excuse me, I feel like there are so many people out there who don't really have an understanding of all of this, of mediumship, of how we connect, of how they can connect to their own loved ones.
Yeah.
And these are the things I want to teach and that I have been teaching is, how, and I tell my students, I don't know if you remember, but like first day of class, I'm like, I'm not going to teach you how to connect to the spirit world. You're already doing that all day long. I'm going to teach you how to give a reading.
Yeah, I
So,
remember you did say that.
yeah, and and I think that's really important because I don't want anyone to feel separate from the spirit world because
Yeah.
we're always there. But I do like to, I use, so this is my one index card. My other one is just a really short kind of introduction. When I have a client, I just give them a little like 4-minute kind of how I work. I teach them the science about this because I want them to understand they can do it too. And I'm teaching a class on December 3rd here in my town to people in the city on exactly the same thing on how to connect to their loved ones. And it has the same mechanisms as as mediumship. I teach them how to connect to the spirit world. Well, not I don't teach them how. I talk about what they're already doing. I just put words to it and just teach them how to become aware of that energy. And I just really feel between that and also educating people about the science of mediumship kind of takes the woo woo out of it, takes the mysticism out of it, and makes it
Yeah.
something that people can digest and something they can comprehend. And I think, and of course, we know that everybody calls what we do, they call us psychics, even if I only practice mediumship professionally, but they just don't understand the terminology. And I think that education's the most important thing. In fact, I have all this stuff structured and set up ready to roll out over the next couple of years that's going to do just that. It's classes and education, and not just for mediums but also for the general public, because I think it's important that when we know what's happening and we understand, then we're more comfortable with it. I just think a lot of people just don't know, and I think that would be helpful, is education on the spirit world and on our own energy. um to help people feel comfortable in their own skin and to help people heal themselves, start going back to that. If they know how to meditate and access their own healing centers, then I think that the world will just be honestly a different place. Yeah. Well, so what's your answer? You can't just let me
I
answer and
I actually was thinking about this. So do you feel like we are having our own sort of awakening in that area in America?
I think the world is. I think there's a shift happening. I mean, at least that's what
Because
all the shows.
it's so much more common in like the UK and some of these other places where it's just, yeah, but
Well, but, I mean,
here,
mediumship started in America, and then it went out to every place else. I mean, with what are those sisters from New York with the knockings, the rappings on the wall? So, I mean, I think that there's so much going on in the world today, and there's so much, division and whatnot. And I think that people are really wanting to come back
yeah,
to their essence,
yes,
into what makes us all the same.
yes,
It's like,
yes,
okay, there's enough out there in the world, telling us how different we are. Let's really learn about how we're similar.
yes,
And going back to the energy, we both said it's all energy, and
yes,
and I think that's our commonality, and we're all
yes,
souls having a human experience. So
yes,
yeah, I think it's definitely a shift happening, and I really hope that more people will, come to our come to our way of thinking, and just knowing that there's more to life than just, a 9 to 5, you know.
I was gonna say, do you feel like we're gonna experience that in our lifetime? Because you and I are very close in age, and so you feel like in our lifetime we will experience that huge resurgence. Because I'm like, I feel like you, I see the shifts happening, but of course it's little by little, but we all want a big explosion. But do you see that coming in our lifetime?
Oh gosh, that's such a strange question to consider, because we have kids who, are, I don't know, millennials or whatever the generation before that is. We are Gen Xers. Now they have social media, now we have AI. It's almost like dehumanizing the world more and more, rather
Yes,
than going the other direction. So I think at some point people are going to crave, stopping all of that, stopping the social media, at least temporarily, to go back into themselves and get to know, their true nature. So,
yes,
I hope, because they say we're three-dimensional beings. Some of us are already in the fourth dimension, some are
yes,
shifting to the fifth. I mean, I hope that everybody experiences that, but I worry about people who just aren't open at all to anything spiritual. It's like, it's almost like they're kind of, it's a spiritual crisis for some people and some,
yes.
I think cultures. And I just, I want it for everyone, but I think it has to happen in everyone's own time. So who's to say? But I would love to see a shift. I know that religion is kind of, in some places, like for instance, my husband's Catholic church, they lost so many parishioners in all the local churches. They combined churches and sold some of the churches off
Oh
because
wow.
they had so few parishioners. So now that they're small consolidated churches, and it's like, you can't really regrow that. So you have to go into a different direction. And honestly, I hope it's spirituality rather than religion.
Yes.
I mean, not to say people can't have their religion, but there's so much more to the world,
I was gonna say, but
than
why?
well, I am okay. So in fairness, I am a Christian and a medium. So
Yeah,
it's kind of this weird dichotomy, and it's hard to explain, but it's like,
yeah,
I give myself permission to be both. Not everybody doesn't have to be.
yeah,
But I don't like for people to limit me and tell me I can't, because I'm a medium, I can't be a Christian.
yeah.
Although I'm not sure how Christianity fits in. I definitely believe in God. So
That
God's my
I was gonna say that was what I say. I always tell people, I said, I can't really call myself a Christian, but what I say is I love God.
yes. That, well, then that's
I
more
love
me.
God.
Yeah. And
I
and
mean,
I know.
I read the Bible still, like I actually just bought this message Bible.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Yeah,
Large print. They were showing our
exactly.
now large print.
Look, $7 on Amazon. But I still, like I said, I still read the Bible sometimes and stuff, and I talk to God, but I love God. But I cannot do religion. I can't do it. I just
Yeah, no.
can't do it,
I've read that on your page. I got that about you. And I really think that that's kind of an evolved thing, and I'm not saying that
Yeah.
people who are religious aren't evolved,
No.
but I feel like it's also another limiting belief.
Yes.
I mean, I do love the people that I know who are very religious, are very patient and forgiving with their religion and with the people around them. But sometimes I feel there's a bit of intolerance toward people who are not in their religion, or are not religious, and I feel that towards me sometimes. So I just want everyone to get along, and I just want
Let's
everyone to
say,
be spiritual.
in the immortal words of what was his name? Rodney King. Can't we all just get
They all just
along?
get along, right? Yeah, so do you think that we're going to see that also in our lifetimes? Do you think we'll see a shift, or towards an elevated consciousness?
I I want to.
Yeah,
I want to. I mean, I
especially
have
for our
these
kids.
desires for it because, when I first started doing this stuff, I was doing readings and psychic stuff and, reading cards and this, that, and the third. And I had so many people that gave me so much hate.
Mm, yeah.
And I am full of love. I mean, I love to a fault. I'm a Scorpio, so, when we love hard.
Yeah.
So I couldn't understand it, and it hurt my feelings so bad because they would say stuff like, "Oh, you're doing Satan's work and you're the devil and this and that." And one day I just kind of snapped. I did a live. I was like, I love God. I said, I love God because I would not be here without God. Him or them or however you look at it, the God of your own understanding. I heard somebody say Gus, God, universe, source. I'm good.
Mm,
I was like, I love them. I love that collective, and I love God. I was like, without God, I would not be here because I almost died a few times in my life. My ex-husband has AIDS. I do not. And so I think about it now, and I'm like, I know that was nothing but God that protected me because we were married 12 years before he found out. We found out. And so I'm like, no, I love God. I love God. I said, now do I do religion? I don't do that anymore. But I do love God, and I read the
same
Bible.
thing.
I read the Torah sometimes. I look up stuff and read out of the Torah. I read the Quran a little bit.
I have all those in my house too.
I look at all kinds of different spiritual texts, and I don't think it's anything wrong with that. But what I realize about religion is a lot of times people are down on what they're not up on. And the thing that I find that's so intolerable is that it's so cultish, and it's like their minds are so narrow, and they just will not expand. They don't understand it, and they don't want to, and they just jump on people because I saw, like, they were jumping on Beyonce, and then there was somebody else they were jumping on, and then there was, of course, somebody else. And I
Oh,
thought to
dang.
myself, do they know that this girl just sold out because they acting crazy against her? Her concerts sell out. I was like,
Mhm.
and you know what? The Christian people are up in there too. I'm like, stop it. Stop doing that to people. And that was the part that got me in all the brainwashing and the manipulation, because that really is what that is. And I'm like, and I told somebody one time, I said, do you know that even in the Bible it says manipulation is as witchcraft? I said, what does that mean to you? I said, I know this. Why? Because I went to ministry school.
You did.
And I was raised with a pastor. So, I know that. That's why people come to me, and I'm like, you can't come to me with that stuff because I know what's in that book.
Mhm.
Because I've read it many times. We were spoon fed that from children. We used to fast on Saturday mornings and miss all the cartoons. You remember cartoons only stayed on till 12 o'clock on Saturday? Not like now where the kids could watch them all day and every day and all that. No, we had cartoons on Saturday morning till 12 o'clock. And they
Yeah.
used to make us fast. And when we fasted, you couldn't watch TV, things like that. So I'm like, I know about that. But yeah, I feel like there's a shift happening, and I know that there will be a lot of people that will miss the shift, but I believe that a lot of people will grab the shift. And like I said, I'm not ever speaking against God, but that other stuff,
Well, don't you feel like, especially with with COVID and the lockdowns and all of that, I just feel like there's kind of like a hunger for more, like for something
yes,
more substantive, something that feeds our soul. So I
yes,
just feel like people are looking into it more. And I wasn't on Facebook and doing, mediumship prior to COVID. That happened right at the beginning of COVID for me. But yeah, maybe a little bit before. But I wasn't taking a lot of classes yet, and I've definitely noticed the number of people in classes has just kind of skyrocketed. Everyone's out there wanting to, just like they're sponges absorbing, everything, doing tons of classes, doing
Yeah,
tons of circles, and just I love it because I like being a part of that and seeing
yeah,
everyone's
because it's a
trajectory.
movement.
Yeah, and seeing how they change. It's
Yeah,
just it's
yeah.
so great. Yeah.
It's like the evolution of the whole thing, and I've seen it now from just being in this area and this energy, and it's like you can see that progression, and it's like okay, because even from like 2017, I think was when I took my first Reiki class,
Wow.
and I started seeing things, just seeing things, and I hadn't all put it all together yet, because you know how we do. Get into it, and you feel the energy, and the energy, and then you start doing other things, and you start doing classes, and then I don't know if you're like me, but I got the shiny object syndrome. I used to
Yeah.
squirrel go over here.
ADHD.
Oh, that looks good. I like that. Oh, that looks good. I'm gonna take that. All the Udemy classes.
Yeah, that was me
Yeah,
doing all the
I'm like,
classes.
right. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Oh
not,
yeah.
I'm not, you know, but
My
yeah.
calendar, my first couple years, I would use highlighters in my calendar so I could see which things were my mediumship courses, which things were personal, which things were for my kids. My calendar was like a rainbow. I had so much of everything and so many classes. I think I did my first 2 years. I averaged approximately 100 or 150 classes yeah, I mean, like pretty much I would do 3 or 4 classes a week, and then add all the practice circles into that. It was a really rigorous schedule, but I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of feel that way too. That's why I'm like, okay, I have to sit down sometimes and say, okay, do I really want to take this? Because like I took a class on Udemy with Elena the Greek. It was a channeling class, and I'm gonna tell you, it was amazing. I have now done that class probably 3 or 4 times, and I got it this year. And her meditations are stellar. She's a beautiful spirit. I interviewed her as well. And because I reached out to her after I took the class, I was like, listen, I need you on my show, And now,
Right.
we kind of become fast friends. She's such a sweetheart, and her classes were amazing. And I learned stuff in her classes that I hadn't learned in other people's classes. Like she talked about like connecting to the Pleiadians and some of these other things. And she talked about how to fire a guide and, this kind of stuff. I mean, really amazing. Girl, that class is amazing, especially for what, 15.99 or 19.99 or whatever it was. But it was amazing. And I just, and I love it how when the student is ready, the teacher appears. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Because it was a
Um,
class I didn't really think I needed because I know that I'm a channel and I'm okay with that and I
it felt like you should
feel
be in
it.
it.
Right. I felt it when I read the description and I looked at it. And then of course, I went and looked her up on Facebook and I got in her Facebook group too.
Well, and it's your intuition. You're big on intuition, and your intuition told you need to be in that class, and that's
Yeah,
you listening.
it was so good. I mean, like I said, I every week I usually do one of her meditations because it really was fire. And I was like, girl, and then she has another class. I don't know what it is, but I didn't do that yet. I was like,
I'm still
put that to
processing the
next
first.
year, right? I'm gonna
Well,
take that to next year. But
we could
it's
do a whole
just,
other interview on just star seeds and Pleiadians and all that stuff because I've done that too. I've channeled Pleiadians for a friend, and I've had my own experiences as an Arcturian. So yeah, that's a whole other
that
conversation.
is
And
a whole nother, yeah.
Debbie
Like I,
Solaris. I don't know if you watch Gaia at all, but Debbie Solaris, she's, what does she call herself? Some sort of a starseed historian or something. She like knows the whole history of all the
that's
stars.
too cool.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff out there. So yeah,
I
some
know.
that'll be another
I've been
conversation.
thinking about Gaia, but I have not taken that plunge yet, because
It's
I was like,
addictive.
right. I was like, I don't want to add another thing and another channel, another something to do right now. It's like, because how we do. It's like, I'm
We
doing
do.
this and I'm doing that, and I'm going back to work part time, and I'm like, So I have gotten to that place now where I'm like, okay, wait, let me think about this for a second. Let me take a moment. And then,
Let me check my checkbook.
right, right. Take a moment and see, and also let me check my energy because, we'll just be overwhelmed. And, so I'm like, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. Okay, so we're going to land this plane because we've been talking so long and I have loved this.
Me
This has
too.
been an amazing conversation, just like every other.
Thank you
I
so much
always
for
tell people,
having me too.
I say, my
You are
show,
such
I
a
said,
good
this is the
friend, and
greatest show.
I have looked forward to this for so long, and I just want to thank you for having me on here. And I mean,
Yeah.
nobody knows this, but you and I talked for over an hour before we even started the recording.
Right?
This is just, this is our energy, and I just have so much love and respect for you, and I appreciate you doing these because you bring on some really cool people with some really cool stories. So I
Yeah.
love watching your videos, and thanks for doing this, for the community, for everybody. So
Yeah.
spreading the word, it's amazing.
It is my pleasure, and I absolutely love it. I love you because y'all, if y'all didn't know, Beth is a home girl.
Yeah,
She's a
we
home
swapped
girl.
hometowns. Yeah,
Okay,
we
I
both
was
lived
like,
in
it's all good. And
we
then,
and we might have been on the same football field when we were in high school together.
right, right, because I did marching band, she did marching band, and I remember all those days. I mean, my God, it was so amazing. So I'm just like, I'm filled with gratitude because I had been waiting for you to come on. I was like, she said she's coming, she's coming. So some people I get so excited when I know they're coming in, and Beth is one of those people. So I hope that you all have enjoyed it because I have. It's been an amazing time. To be in her energy is just like fire. So it's just been so good. I don't know what you said. You were feeling cold and I was feeling hot. I was like, man, I can turn this heat off because I'm feeling hot.
Oh, because you have the heater on.
Yeah, but I was like overheated. So I was like, okay. But yeah, so it's been good. But
Thank you.
if when you are looking at this and you want to connect with Beth, all of her information and details will be in the show notes, how you can connect with her. But she's going to tell you what is the best way to connect with her. And if she has anything coming up, any programs or any classes or courses or anything, you can share all of that now.
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the best way to connect with me is through email. If you want to get a direct connection, it's mediumbeth@gmail.com. I am doing, so I have a group that is evidential mediumship practice readings. If you're a medium, if you're interested in becoming a medium, or if you're interested in sitting for mediums for their readings, you can join that group. Everything in the group is free. And I also offer a few times a year a free evidential foundational course. It's usually 4 weeks long. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And I always say, if I can't give you a resource, I'll send you to somebody I know who can. So
Yes.
just know that I'm a resource of resources. So
Yes.
yeah, just reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions if that's all they have they
And I
want.
have to tell you, her 4 week class is bomb.
Uh, I
It's
appreciate that.
bomb. It
That's a
was
big
really
plug.
good.
It's fun to do. It's that's everything that I wish I had in the first month, and it's just it's a great starter class. I think it'll probably get you where you need to be at like
Yeah.
6 months.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just
I mean, it honestly is an amazing class, and I just have to give you your flowers because it was so good, and I enjoyed it so much, and even because you did it a little different than somebody else did it, and that is really what it's all about. Find you a teacher, or I recommend teachers. You want a few different people that you can learn from, and just be a sponge and just absorb the things that you need. So, with that being said, I am so grateful for Beth showing up here in my living room. And it's been such an amazing class. So, I hope that you got so much out of it. And make sure that you reach out to her and leave us a comment on whatever platform you're watching this, because this show will be on Spotify and everywhere that you can get your podcast is on. And also you'll be able to watch the video on my YouTube channel. And I would love it if you, when you go there, if you would like, share, and subscribe. So again, thank y'all for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. Bye now.
In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, sometimes all we need is a guiding light, a source of strength, and a shoulder to lean on. Introducing Magical Healing Transformation Support. You can get 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months of support, where our experienced spiritual guides are here to help you find your inner balance, discover your true purpose, and navigate life's challenges with grace. Go to the website https://tammymorrison.com for our offerings, or connect with me wherever you are listening to this. Send me a message. Get unleashed today.
I know you've been blown away with the amazing value here today. Now go out and inspire the planet. And be sure to send us a message when you're ready to come talk about it on Straight Outta Savannah, Talking with Tammi.